right, so I'm dropping Jujutsu Kaisen. This video is going to be me explaining why this series is just not to me, not to my personal taste. If you want to skip over the disclaimer of what I value in a series, timestamps below. And if you're also somebody who does not want to hear someone talk badly about a series they love, I strongly suggest you skip this video because I'm going to have very, very little nice things to say about it. There are some moments I enjoy, some episodes I thought were executed well, some characters I thought had a lot of potential, but for the most part, it's going to be me hating on this series for however long this video is. All right, so what are my priorities in an anime, or any series really? Number one is going to be strong narrative focus. I want something that is actively driving a present-day storyline forward. Flashbacks are great, developing backstories, all fantastic, but if something is not actively moving the series forward in the present timeline, I do not care. I don't care. If the focus is in the past or anywhere else other than what the purpose of this show is, what is the point of the series to me, my thought process. Number two in my priorities is going to be the characters. If the show has like really strongly developed characters, motives, goals, dreams, aspirations, personality to these characters, then that can also override if the plot is lacking a little bit for me. So those two are almost interchangeable in what I value, but narrative plotline will probably always be the most important, character development, a extremely close second. And the third most important is going to be the relationships between characters. How interpersonal dynamics, bonds develop, rivalries, hatred, how they react to different characters being around them, character dynamics between other characters. And ever so slightly below those three will be themes and messages and just what the author is trying to explore in this series, whether that be the cycle of hatred, child soldiers, don't trust the government, utilitarianism, something, a message or theme that drives the story. Power corrupts is a big one. Like, I want something that's, there's a message and a reason for this story to exist. There's something the author is trying to tell. Doesn't have to have this, but it's great when that is a focus of the story. At the very, very, very bottom of my priority list is animation. So long as it is watchable, and I have dropped 2 series because, no, to me, it just was not watchable. The animation was too bad. It looks glitchy. I'm watching a computer game, more or less, with long cutscenes. Or, yeah, very glitchy. I will drop it for that. But if it is watchable, even slightly, that's all I need. Above that is going to be probably fight scenes. And I say this with a caveat. If the fight scenes develop the characters, if we show clashing ideologies, clashing goals and dreams, and like there can only be one winner, and I want both, or I understand both viewpoints for why they're fighting, that can be great. That can be incredible. That can be amazing. But if the script can seriously just be summed up with, and then they fight, or then no, that means nothing to me. I don't care anything about the fighting. Unless it is, this person is fighting for this person is fighting for this, and they're conflicting because of that. That is great. That is good character and interpersonal dynamic development. Love that. Goes with up in my top 3 priorities. And then after that, or slightly above, is going to be probably the power system, magic system, whatever you want to call it. I frankly, it's great, but it's like icing on top. It's a nice bonus, but it's not going to be the reason I watch a series because it has cool power systems. And this one's going to be a little bit more controversial. Probably a little, actually might even be below. Tied with the power system for my priorities, and honestly, no, probably lower. World building. I know I'm a One Piece fan. And again, it's the cherry on top. It's lovely when a series has good world building, but it is not even close to necessary for me. Yeah, actually, it's probably even lower on my list of priorities. It's impressive, but not needed for me to enjoy a show, and it's not a reason I will ever start a show. I'm sorry. So, in my top 3 priorities of narrative plots, good characters, and character dynamics, Jujutsu Kaisen meets 0 of those requirements. I felt the entire plot to be so superficial, not exploring anything in terms of themes. Everything felt so episodic, nothing led into each other. So many like side quests that nothing really pushed the story forward. I hated everything about the narrative of how it was put together. Characters drastically underuse the main cast, not developed, and interpersonal dynamic does not exist. We got a couple episodes in season 2, which I think were handled flawlessly. They were brilliant, and then everything surrounding that was wasted, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Starting with season 1, the introduction was pretty good, but I can't believe I'm going to say this. Have you watched the Mummy movie, the remake that was supposed to set up a cinematic monster universe? That is what I think of when I think of season 1. It set up so many little things that it forgot to be a good series on its own. It set up Yuji, so I'm going to call Yuji Itadori, I'm going to call him Itadori and Yuji interchangeably. I don't know if I'll call him by his first name, last name, I just go back and forth. So it set him up, and he's freakishly strong for some reason, will develop in the future. We have the death of his grandfather, which sets up his morals of looking and wanting a perfect death. What does that mean? Maybe we'll develop that in the future, and it felt like that moment, that death should have been the straw that broke the camel's back. Like some other things led up to, this is my reason for staying alive, for wanting to live, for wanting to fight, for wanting to help others. But we don't know what happened before, and we're not developing this ideology afterwards yet. What happened with his parents? I don't know. We'll look into it after. Megumi, his sister, his family, we'll tell you about it later. Gojo, we'll tell you about him later. It's the clan, politics, why the principal and clan leaders and keeping the status quo, why they wanted Yuji dead. We'll get into all that later. We're not developing it in season 1. Character dynamics between the 3 of the main cast. Well, Itadori was killed after a couple episodes, after like 1 mission together. So we'll develop their relationship later. Everything was setting things up to happen and be developed in the future, and there was no payoff, no development that I got in season 1. All the narrative of the plot felt so shallow to me. Event happened. What were the consequences of these events? Let's not explore it. Yuji died. It was basically treated like a coworker died. So we'll be sad for half a second, realize we had to get stronger, and now go train in a tournament. We did not develop any emotional connection between the 3 main casts for them to feel any real trauma of losing him, other than, well, we have to get stronger so this doesn't happen to us. They didn't impact each other to an extent that was satisfactory. When Patchface guy killed the depressed kid, I'm bad with names. That is not an insult to the show. I'm just bad with names. I might look them up in a second. But like that had real emotional weight and consequence with Yuji and how he will react going forward. And I was really excited to see the exploration of him and, I should learn Patchface guy's name, Mahito. Like, I knew that. I swear I knew that. I'm actually very interested in their dynamic. The corruption of the soul and everything with him, the death of Yuji's friend, and that was a really good arc moment character-wise, but I don't feel it has been paid off in season 2. Again, we'll get to that when I talk about season 2. We had more development with the side characters than we did the main cast. Toto, love him so very much. Him and Yuji had a fantastic friendship dynamic developed through a fight. That fight in the school with the tournament arc was fantastic. We developed both those characters, them becoming friends, them wanting to push each other to become stronger, and Yuji learning how to fight, and it was all done through amazing animation, action scenes. It was great. Why the hell didn't we have anything like that with the main trio of the series? Because I'm starting to think they're not even, like, I can't even consider them the main trio. They're just the 3 characters that are on the poster, but we're not actually going to focus on them or do anything to develop them. Maki and the Zenin clan. Absolutely incredible moments given to them. I don't understand why we built up the side characters before the main cast. And again, I guess I should just be saying that this is not the main cast. They're not the focus of the series. But then in that case, why do they exist? Megumi's history with his father, with his clan, with Gojo, not explored, not explained. I don't understand why the focus is where it is. But going back to, I never felt like the narrative explored anything in any depth. Once we hit a plot point, we moved on to the next one without exploring any consequences between character dynamics, emotional fallout, or anything like that in season 1. And I didn't really feel we were pushing the story forward too much, which is okay because it's supposed to be a setup arc, but there was no payoff for anything. I get hinting at things in the future, but there was nothing in season 1 that got me invested. I wanted to drop the series there, but I've been told the series is great. I've been told the characters are great. I've been told the power system is great. It is beautifully animated. I loved how gory things got. I'm a huge horror fan. So yeah, I'm going to try season 2. And hopefully as things become more developed, I'm going to get hooked in season 2. So the first, I think it was 3 episodes, blew my mind. Night and day difference. I think this jumped to being a possible favorite anime for how well, how flawlessly we developed Gojo and Geto's relationship. So we're in the past, which again, not my priority, but it is good for well-developed characters. So we are developing them, so that's great. Now, we have them playing basketball. We have conflicting ideologies. We have them being together and the conflict, but friendship, the rivalry, the jealousy. Gojo just being like a god among men and his god complex being developed and the crazy moments at the end. All so well developed. I cannot praise, I believe it was like the first 3 episodes of season 2 enough. Absolutely flawless. And then we introduce the plasma vessel girl. And at first I'm like, this is a little weird, but I was so hopeful in how this would explore themes and plot points in the future. So, I also loved movie Zero. That was great. Love that, but again, focused on the side characters, not the core cast. So Plasma Vessel. She is going to be fused with the guy who's a tree, immortal, to prevent evolution, possibly destroy the world. And at first, it seemed really interesting because she was absolutely fine with this. She was born knowing that who she is and what she is meant to do and that her life is going to end. And her perspective is just, I will become one with him, he will become one with me, and I will live together. But then, or we will live forever. I will be immortalized in this way. But she still goes to school, she still has friends, and her maid just wants her to have some happy days, human life, live it while you can. And I'm thinking, oh, this is so interesting. Is she being brainwashed? Is this actually her thinking, or is this what she has been led to believe? Is she going to change her mind and want to live and experience more to her life? Is this going to put in conflict with Gojo's view initially of being, why are we protecting the weak, and Geto's view of, oh, because that's our job, even though we know those priorities switch in the future? So I'm thinking that eventually she'll choose, I want to live, and then eventually realize, no, I have to sacrifice myself for the greater good. This is my life. I have had a happy life. Going with Itadori and Yuji in the present day, what does it mean to have a proper death? And it's not that they have a long life, they've had a good life, and this is the proper way for them to die. I thought that would be so interesting to explore. Screw that! Kill her as soon as she says she wants to live, and drop the entire plot point entirely. So that made absolutely zero sense to me. And then the fall of Geto's character was so insultingly bad. Like, I am without words. We spent so much time developing the character, his what he values, his relationship with Gojo, the humor, the rivalry, the respect, the jealousy, so much time, only for his descent into madness to essentially be, well, we don't spend time together anymore because we've gone on separate paths, separate missions. And I seen this red shirt guy who was so optimistic. Well, he died on a mission. And this girl was talking about the only way to really get rid of all cursed spirits. Well, we have these options, but really, instead of just teaching everyone sorcery, we could just kill all non-sorcerers because they're the ones creating the cursed spirits, demons in the first place. Yeah, that sounds legit. I went to a village. We don't see the mission, and these terrible people were torturing two girls because they had sorcery powers, and they thought they were the reason behind everything bad that was happening instead of this cursed spirit. Even though I exorcised the spirit, they're still hurting these girls, so I'm just going to kill all them, take those two girls in. Like, it was brushed over so quickly. And Gojo, who is his best friend, just massacred a town. We have a few moments of him falling apart, panic attack, but then what does he do? At all. Finds him in a crowded space, says, what the hell's wrong with you, and lets him leave. Does he go after him? Does he search for meaning? Does he change his perspective to tell Geto that, no, we can protect people, and I can exercise every single cursed spirit ever just to bring you home to show that my way can work? No, he just not. What happened during that time frame? Did he threaten people not to go after his best friend? Did he go looking for his best friend? Nothing was explored. It's just like, well, he's gone now, so I guess I'm going to raise this kid because his father, what's the guy's name? Toji. He has more character development than any of the main cast, with his complicated relationship between the clans, values, his wife, protecting his son, selling his son, wanting a better life for him, convincing Gojo to care for him. But again, nothing really explored. It's hinted at. I've seen thought pieces and people talking about what this means, but it wasn't actually explored that deeply in the anime. It was more of some of the words in his actions led you to believe this, which I'm fine. That was actually good. I prefer it not to be completely spelled out. I'm absolutely fine with how his character was handled. But when all the characters are, well, it's implied, that's not good. You have to explore something. Alright, so I'm on a downward spiral with season 2, but I'm still very optimistic. Because again, love the first couple episodes. I'm thinking maybe some of the themes will come back into play, and they were just kind of at a time and couldn't properly show the fall of Geto's character. Fine, maybe we'll get it somewhere else. So we go back to our main three, and they're having, they're at a diner. And it's implied like they go see movies together sometimes. So we're skipping over any and all character dynamics, building of relationships between them. Like, not to bring things back to Naruto, but like the rivalry between Naruto and Sasuke, especially in the Land of Waves, and them fighting together with the Windmill Shuriken, and you can see their thought process on how they be like training together, recognizing plans, and being able to communicate that stuff without actually talking to each other, and then protecting each other, did a lot to develop their bond and my investment in the main trio early on in the series. Whereas we spent most of season 1 them being apart, so now for season 2 to act like we've already had this big character bond between them without showing it feels like lazy writing. At one point, after one of the fights, Megumi is just like pretty much saying, don't die on me. You're not allowed to die. I screamed at my computer, like, why are you two acting like you guys are such close friends? This is the second time you've spoken to each other this season, and you barely talked last season. Aside from Yuji saying we should bring this body home, and Megumi bringing a dog tag or whatever it was to the parents to be laid to rest, like, that's it. That's as close as we've ever gotten to them impacting each other. All right, Mechamaru, big robot guy with the weakened body. Again, better character development in a couple moments than any of the main cast. So was the mole selling information for Patchface to give him a better body? Because his body was so weak and dying, he had to live through the robots on the outside. Sacrifice, heavenly bargain, all that fun stuff. So we have a character who is actively working towards the goal of getting a better body. We have reason for him wanting that. And then we have him wanting to put a failsafe in place to protect the people he cares about, specifically the blue-haired lady and the friends he's made from the Shibuya, I can almost talk, incident. Like, he wants to do the right thing, but he also had his own motivations, conflicting interests. It was great. And their fight scenes, again, it's a great moment. I'm enjoying myself. Except in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, what the hell, when were we discussing a mole? Why wasn't that developed? Because that was the key moment that led to this conflict. What led to the fight and what his motive and how he got his goal of the new body, he accomplished that through being a mole. That was the deal that was made. So we are missing the intermediate piece that led to these really cool consequences, but we didn't have that setup. So it seems like in this series, for me, we either have all this setup and no payoff, or we have a cool payoff but no setup. So I had to put a post on YouTube here in the little community tab. Guys, like, I know I'm missing something. I know a mole was mentioned slightly, but I can't really think of when it was explored, developed, or really even mentioned. I'm sure it was there, but I may have blocked out most of season 1. Help me out. I had thought maybe he was selling information on Yuji, because the only thing I could think of was the principal and the clans wanting him dead to keep the status quo, not wanting to risk Sukuna's returning or something like that. But no, it was more of, we think, the attack on the school, key positioning, and location of certain objects that were stolen. That was what was sold out. But the fact that I completely forgot that was even mentioned, like, we didn't have people examining, hey, who could be the mole? We had the process of elimination in a couple seconds of that episode. So again, more or less skipping the setup to the bare minimum to get to the payoff. And that's how I feel the whole Shibuya thing went. It was, I want to get to this payoff, but I don't want to spend the time developing the characters and strategically moving everything into place. And don't get me wrong. I love a fantastic payoff, extreme fights. May I introduce you to Battlegrounds? I don't know what book this is in the Dresden Files. 13th? 14th? This entire book is essentially a fight scene. A bunch of little fight scenes and a huge fight scenes. This is 90% a fight scene book. I love this book. But do you know what else it had? All of these books to develop the characters and move us into this position. Marineford, can you imagine if that was like, what, in season 2 or 3? I wouldn't care. You need the setup for the payoffs. You have to develop these characters. You have to give me a reason to care. All the deaths that happen in the Shibuya arc, especially innocent civilians, like, what's that one on Amazon? Invincible? Like, there's a moment in there that is comparable, but it is so brutal because of how it affects the main character, the dynamic between them and the one doing the mental torturing, that had been properly set up in only one season, mind you. And the show had the decency of showing us that emotional payoff with them, whereas the emotional payoff in the most recent episode of Jujutsu Kaisen was skipped over, playing the end credit scenes and immediately cutting away, and the character being over the trauma in a second, being like, I have to keep fighting. Like, not only did we skip over the setup, we skipped over the emotional consequence and fallout. Alright, so Yuji realizes his greatest enemy that we've set up so far of is it Mahito? Yeah, Mahito. I swear I'll learn to pronounce his name eventually. Or remember his name eventually. Again, one of my few praises of this show is what I wanted, the development between them, because corruption of the soul to live and have a proper death, and you can't have a proper death if you've been completely corrupted. Like, their dynamic is interesting, and I'm very excited for Yuji to get to him. And he does have a couple scenes where the emotions on his face is just when he hears his name is there, he knows he has to get to them. There's a couple good scenes there that it's expressed, the emotions and what he's feeling is not narrated, but it's shown on his face, and that is great. And then there's a scene with him praying over corpses. And again, excellent addition, no complaints, but that is not enough. Internal narrative, something. When he fights the grasshopper, and he learns that a bunch of people have been turned into monsters and corrupted and put on that train to go down, why doesn't he reflect on why this is wrong, how it's going against his belief of a proper death? Something, anything. Develop some kind of emotional connection with this character. You even mentioning the desecration of like the body and the soul, like just bring it up, mention it, let him think about it. Oh, but we can't have someone think about anything because that defeats the purpose of my big rage-inducing narrator for this arc. Like when I tell you, I almost just rage quit this entire series when they introduced a voiceover. I'll get into more of that when I talk about 2 different upcoming fights. I'll get to that. But apparently we can't have an internal monologue because what's the purpose when we have a narrator who can monologue and exposition dump everything? Like when they talked about the barriers coming down and we needed character dialogue of how that cuts off cell phone service but communication in such blatant ways. Like the dialogue was bad in a couple of these episodes to exposition dump that I'm like, I get this is shown in age target demographic, I don't know, 8 to 12, 14, 16, like I get that. But really, do you have to talk like your target audience is an 8-year-old? Because some of the dialogue was bad. I said I'd get to that in a minute. Okay, so 2 incidences with Gojo and Itadori. So, the only way that they can think to fight Gojo is to have a bunch of civilians around so he can't activate his domain because that'll pretty much kill everyone, send them into madness, and they don't want him to do that. But they actually do because they need him in emotional instability, and they think that pushing him to the limit where he realizes sacrificing everyone in this area will be enough is the beneficial option because you got to save everybody outside this area. And that is extremely interesting. You're pushing a character to a vulnerable, instable state, put him in a position where then the prison world can lock them all up. Excellent idea. Push the character to that limit. Except, no, because he can just activate the domain for like a third of a second, just long enough that he thinks that everyone won't go crazy for being in his domain, and then in 200 seconds, kill every single one. Still kind of cool because it just shows how overpowered this character was. But then the emotional response of him seeing his best friend shows up, Prism World can lock them all up. I'm not angry that Gojo found a way out of that by only activating his domain for a split second. My issue with him comes with the fact that this isn't even Geto. So we spent so much time. The only thing I really like about this arc, the development of their friendship and their ideals and how they're going about accomplishing their goals. Only for it to no longer be him, because he did die in the first movie. And some brain has taken over, and we have a little bit of maybe the power of friendship will come back and save him when the hand took him, because the body is still remembering, has memories of the soul, even though the brain's been replaced. But this isn't even the same character. I can't reason why he's thinking this way, why his goals are this, why he's acting this way, because it's not the one we've been following. They don't have that friendship. The dynamic between this not Geto and Gojo means nothing to me because it's not Geto. And I was pissed. I did like the line though, so very much of everything with my 6 eyes and my senses tell me you're Geto, but with my heart and soul I know otherwise. Who are you? Yeah, I do love that line completely, entirely. So maybe it's worth it, but it still pissed me off that what one element of character dynamics I like is not in the show because it's not the same character anymore. And the second thing, with a similar idea of pushing a character to an extreme, making a terrible, unwinnable choice, but not having them actually have to make that choice to have any consequences for this character, was when Yuji was running to get to Mahito, going over things, and he sees the corrupt things, monsters, attacking innocent civilians. And he has to decide whether or not he'll go down and help them, or continue on. So complete the mission, stop the bad guys, or save as many innocent lives as he can, or just have to leave them to die to continue on the mission. My God, that would be emotionally traumatizing to make that decision. Too bad he doesn't have to make that decision, because his friends show up with Toto and the really cool guy with the voice power that I absolutely adore his power more than anything, but I swear I'd learn his name eventually. And on the one hand, yeah, you can count on your friends. They'll be there to help. They'll take some of the work so you can continue soldiering on forward. And that does pay off in the I have to defeat this other bad guy even if I die to clear the path for my friends coming up behind me. So yes, it kind of works. But when you set up a couple times of I'm going to push this character to an extreme, give them an unthinkable choice, there's no good option, and it's going to cause trauma to them, but don't have the payoff twice in a row, it's annoying. It is just annoying. Now's a good enough time to talk about my favorite character, Nanami. Love this man. Love him so much. He's my favorite in season 1 for no other reason than he looked at Yuji. He's like, you are a child. I must protect you. And then realized, oh, you're strong. I will teach you. You can protect yourself. But still, I'm the adult. I am responsible for you. You are my responsibility. I will do everything I can to protect you. Hey, we're now into overtime, so I'm going to get serious. Love him. And then we introduce Ino, who idolizes Nanami, and the fact that his line of, I want to be a good person, so when I think of what is right, I think, what would Nanami do? Yeah, no. Introduce this random character, make him like and respect a character I already like. Cool, like him. Too bad we didn't really do anything with him other than him being a plot point to bring Megumi's father back into the fight. One more glorious moment would be Nanami's fight when he gets angry that his coworkers and friends have been targeted and killed, and then punches the face into the man who will just simply be known as the one with the punchable face. The blonde with the punchable face. Multiple times. Glorious. Excellent. Fantastic. Because I'm not going to have much more positive to say about this series, I'll say it one more time. That fight, that punch, beautiful. Beautiful. Love this man. Beautiful. Love it. Alright, fights. So Megumi and Yuji are fighting the guy who, his technique is pretty much the opposite. If you hit him with a strong attack, it will become a weak attack. But if you hit him with a weak attack, it will become a strong attack. And you have to figure that out. How do they figure this out? I don't know. I think it was a coincidence. And my main issue with that fight was, again, they're acting like they're such good friends and protecting each other and don't you dare die on me afterwards. But there was nothing leading up to this made me think they were anything more than co-workers. I don't feel like they respect each other. I don't feel like they're friends. And the realization on how to beat this domain more or less came out of nowhere. Not completely, but not enough that I was anyway impressed by them strategically working together to figure it out. Borderline, it was fine. Moving on. So Yuji has run away. He didn't have to make the decision on whether or not to save the civilians or continue on forward. And he ends up running into Choso, who... This is when I rage quit this series, or wanted to rage quit this series, because the voiceover narrative in this moment actually kills me with how bad and lazy it is. So I get that the domain expansions and the curse techniques and all the fighting styles are very complicated. And it's hard to get across how they work without some kind of voiceover narration. In my opinion, that is just lazy goddamn writing. Because okay. Control yourself, Jessica. Yuji has come up across an opponent. Are we going to use this time to develop him as a character, as someone with strategy who can reason and think things through and figure out how an enemy opponent that we have no knowledge of this character has no knowledge of. Can he reason how it works and find a way around it, find a way to defeat him, find a weakness? Like every other goddamn show with a fight scene, when you don't know your enemy's power system, how they work, how they fight, you have to figure that out? Or are we going to have a voiceover tell us how it worked, and then him learn about it off screen by Robot Buddy, who's technically dead, and him tell him how to work? Why the hell couldn't he have realized, hey, he's attacking with blood, then that, hey, there's water on the floor over there, and for whatever reason, he's not pulling the water out of that. Hey, I'm remembering a biology class that I had, and this is how blood works. Well, I'm going to die anyway, so Hail Mary, let's see if this works. I don't understand how that wasn't something he couldn't have figured out. And you know how much I hate it even more? Because I realized after the fact that this guy is related to the family of the person that Megumi had fought in season 1. So, if Megumi and Yuji had been developed as friends, they could have talked about that fight. They could have talked about the history of that clan, and he could have learned little bits of insights that how they fought and how they worked to use in this fight. You could have had more setup that could have paid off in this fight. But no, we're going to have a stupid narration tell me how this works because I'm an idiot apparently, and the author couldn't develop it naturally into the story. So instead, Yuji's going to learn about how to defeat this curse technique off screen. It's going to work. We'll have the stupid fight because I'm still raging with how the narrative was developed for this. And then Yuji's not going to realize that he's covering one area to keep one part of his blood body, whatever, dry, using the blood inside his body instead of outside it to give him a lethal attack in like the liver or something like that. And just when he's about to be killed off, and again, we do have the good moment of, I will take this guy out, I'm clearing the path so the ones coming up behind me can get through. We have that good moment. Praise where it's due. No, because Buddy's going to hallucinate a memory that doesn't exist of him actually being his brother, and he can't bring himself to finish him off. Like, what the hell? Came out of nowhere, David Ex Machina of all types. Maybe some of the comments have pointed out, well, by using the blood inside his own body, he was putting himself at risk of a stroke, so he's having a stroke, he had this hallucination. Quite honestly, I thought it was Sukuna who put a memory in his brain to save the body, but that makes zero sense, because Sukuna does not care what happens to Yuji at all. There's been some theories online I've seen that Yuji has a domain or curse technique that involves manipulating memories, so maybe this will come back to actually be a kind of cool, make sense moment. But I'm still mostly pissed that we had zero setup and just exposition dumped how it works and how to defeat this person. Pissed me off. Rage quit. I was furious watching that episode with how bad and how lazy I felt the writing was. This one isn't so much a complaint as if we were going to do anything and like lean into like extreme motives of a character, make you feel something, anything other than hatred and lazy writing, because this show is not taking any risk whatsoever, I'm getting, because it's not making me care about these characters, so why should I care if they die pointlessly or what happens to them? Like, give me something to feel towards these characters. Anything. So, Mimi, like her, or Mei. I like her. Cool. Selfish and looking out for herself, wants Gojo to owe her a favor, likes money. Yeah, cool. So she's fighting the smallpox demon spirit curse thing and realizes that it targets whoever has the strongest cursed energy. So she tells her little brother that, hey, you ready to die for me? So you go out there, I'll suppress my curse energy, you'll activate yours. She knows that when the coffin falls on him, he wouldn't have the power to survive it, but it would give her time to finish off the cursed spirit. I'm not angry, this is just a personal preference. Can you imagine if that wasn't a sign of, I actually know you can handle this, so he does survive it? Can you imagine if it actually was a development of her character of, I'm so selfish, and I'm so into getting this person killed that I will let my little brother die, actually die, so I can complete this mission and feel nothing towards it. That the emotion that would bring towards this character, I'm not saying it's a good choice, but it at least would have made me feel something other than, once again, no consequences here. All right, so next rage-inducing moment. So Maki and Nanami are going with Maki's grandfather of the Zenin clan, Naobito, whoever he is, and his, again, would be very difficult for you to explain how his technique works. It has to do with frame rates and moving around, and it can freeze your opponent if it doesn't follow the frames in these so many seconds. So lets him go faster, lets him attack a frozen enemy. Very cool. God forbid we have a flashback developing any of the characters of the Zenin clan learning this technique, talking about how it works. How about for clan politics, we have one member of clan, maybe the Gojo clan, or literally anyone, trying to infiltrate them and learn the secrets of this technique? No, we're just going to have a narrator voice over how it works, because God forbid you spend the time developing this character. Have someone learn this technique. Do anything to set it up before we see it used. Or how about we just let it be a mystery on how this man's fighting technique works, and we'll learn about it in the future. No, voiceover. God forbid you set anything up. God forbid anything get developed naturally. God forbid you work it into the story. All right, so Volcano Man, Gojo. I'm just going to refer to him as Volcano Man. He finds the two girls that Geto had saved feeding Itadori the Sukuna's fingers because they want him to awaken Sukuna to kill the thing that's controlling Geto to let him be at peace. Very interesting. God forbid we develop their character dynamic with him in any meaningful way. Not even in the movie were they really all that set up. But I guess saving their life as children is technically enough in raising them. I don't technically need any more information than that. That's motivation enough. But, you know, just because we didn't spend time developing any other characters or character dynamic, why would we develop theirs either? So, makes sense. They're trying to wake up Sukuna, and he kills them and then goes to Itadori and continues to feed him the 10 fingers. What is the purpose of this show again? Was it to get all 20 of Sukuna's fingers so they could actually kill him? So God forbid we spend any time looking for these fingers, because 15 of them now Itadori has eaten by being unconscious and not actively pursuing them. Just saying. So, they awaken Sukuna. Sukuna is handled fantastically. I have zero complaints about him. He is terrifying. He is evil. He is manipulative. And he is cruel. I have zero complaints with this character. So, I love the moment when it's like you're standing awful high, being around me or whatever, your heads are high. Two girls drop to their hands and knees, forehead touching the ground, whereas Volcano Head Man just drops to one knee and results in some of his head getting taken off because he wasn't bowing low enough. We have the girls who fed them the fingers. They get slaughtered because they presumed that they could give him orders to kill, what's his name? Because they want Geto freed. And then, you know, trying to kill Sukuna when he killed the first one. And then the Volcano guy, he's being completely humble. I want nothing from you. You are above everything. Of course, I would never presume to ask anything of you. All I want is for you to put us back where we were, going into the motives of how they used to have so much control, but the introduction of Gojo having that curse spirits and everything are now so low on the totem pole, they're scraping by. They didn't have the power they used to have and the freedom that they used to have, and he wants that day back. And Sukuna is just like, I do appreciate you giving me all 10, like a bunch of fingers. So how about if we have a fight, and if you can land one hit on me, we'll talk. And then of course it ends with him killing him. Like, Sukuna, terrifying, cannot be trusted with anyone. Whoever thinks they can work with him, absolutely not. Love his character. No complaints. Praise where it's due. All right, so Megumi's father is back. He killed Dragon Buddy, and now he's fighting Megumi. And very interesting, he ends up killing himself rather than hurt his son and saying, I'm so happy like you didn't take the Zenin name. So really works well for developing his character, little moments. Again, I don't really feel we need any deep dive exposition dump spelling out how he feels about his family and the clan and his son and his wife. not need it. I like how his character was handled. You know what would have been interesting? If we explored the main character in Megumi, his relationship with Gojo, if he even knew this was his father. But he didn't. He didn't. It did nothing for his character. And I'm like, why? What? How? Why? Why? What does this show have against interpersonal character dynamics? There was a very good moment with Megumi, though, because when blonde punchable face man shows up, he realizes he's too injured and can't fight him, so he's like, hey, there's this technique where I can subjugate a Shinigami, and no one's ever been able to do this, so if I trap you in here with me, it'll just kill us both. So he looks at him and is like, sorry, I'm dying first. Wing spin Shinigami thing throws him into a building. He's as good as dead, and it's going after punchable face one. But then Sukuna shows up, awesome fight. Love this man, because at one point he gets thrown to a building and he comes back with like a soda, and that's just hilarious, and I love it. And then for whatever reason, he heals Megumi because he's not done with him yet, and I did like those kind of moments. But now that Sukuna has destroyed the entire city, God knows how many people killed, including, like, blasted apart friends of Yuji, he relinquishes control. Yuji comes back. And do you remember how in season 1, which again was just all set up, this movie that's essentially the Mummy movie of setup and not being good as a standalone thing on its own, remember how we set up that the Sukuna could take over, in order to bring Yuji back to life, Sukuna could take over his body for however long of time, given a certain phrase or anything like that? Yeah, God forbid this payoff, because it wasn't a fault of Yuji that Sukuna had taken over. It wasn't because of this deal he had made of his own free will that he forgot about. No, it was he was unconscious and someone force-fed him a bunch of fingers. So it wasn't even his fault, but it was his body. So he has a mental breakdown of everything Sukuna did in his body. How is this treated? Is it a giant emotional moment, even though I care nothing about this character or any of the characters that stuff happened to? No. We get the end credit scenes playing. We have a cutaway so we don't even really see him grieving for very long. And then immediately after, he's like, I have to get stronger to continue fighting. I can't fall apart here. And yes, some people will like how he regained his composure and pulled himself together so quickly. I think I wanted to see an emotional follow, but I also would have needed an emotional build-up, so I didn't get either. So I ask, what is the purpose of Jujutsu Kaisen? What is the narrative story of this show? Is it to defeat Sukuna by collecting all the figures and have him fully possessed, fully transformed, so you can take him down? If it is, we aren't developing it very well because Yuji was just knocked unconscious and 15 of them have been force-fed to him, more or less. Maybe not all 15, like, what, 3 he took himself? No, that's not the purpose. Is it to examine the morality of the human soul condition, what it means to have a good life and a proper death? Well, we haven't explored that. Is it to examine the clan politics and trauma that comes with the clan politics? It's glossed over so superficially. Probably not. Is it about child soldiers and the emotional trauma this brings to people? Not really. I don't know what the purpose of this show is. To me, it is the narrative is an excuse to have flashy fights that do nothing to develop characters, do nothing to develop ideologies, conflicting interests, or motivations or goals, and just pairing them against each other. The fights do not develop the characters, the character dynamics, the character relationships, strategy, nothing. I'm getting nothing. I told you, I had very little nice things to say about this series. And if you disagree, that is fine. I am genuinely happy for the people who like this show. I'm sure the manga is better. But this adaptation, my God, I personally, with my values and what I like from anime and stories, I get nothing from this. So I am 1000% dropping it. Feel free to spoil everything and anything in the comments. I'm already aware of what happens to Nanami because an impromptu, couple dozen comments from a TikTok Not even my video. I commented on a video saying Nanami is my favorite character, and then I had about 12 people say this is how his story concludes and what happens to them, and when and how, and I'm just like, thanks. It's not like I wanted to experience that myself. Why would you do that? So no, I have a very negative view of the fan base, and I have nothing good to say about the series. I'm going to try to end this on a positive note. The animation is beautiful. I loved how gory season 1 was. The fighting system, styles, power system, all really cool, if not really explored. I wish more people had domain, so Sukuna's domain especially, I love that one so much. I can't think of anything else nice to say. Again, those 3 episodes in season 2. That's all I got. I will talk to you later. Please don't hate me for this opinion. I'm going to go back to a series that I actually enjoy. Talk to you later.